Friday nights, yesterday New York time though, right? I got you. So they got back from New York yesterday, and we're so excited for them to be back. If you guys don't know, they were on a short-term mission trip over there. We're going to let them share a little bit about it, but part of what we do is get excited about sending people, but also hearing what God did in and through them on these trips so we can all rejoice together. So we're going to let them share a little bit about what that trip looks like for them, and you guys take it away.
Yeah, we're Alex and Andrea, and we just want to say thank you guys for praying for us, for giving financially. We felt like we were covered in prayer, and we were asking for just a lot of connections in New York, and we met somebody every day and had conversations that just kind of clicked and just felt like we had a lot of favor. So thank you for praying for those connections. The second thing is thank you for giving financially. Like we don't have any needs. They were all met and we were taken care of. So that's just a testament to the passion in your hearts for God's purpose, and just is sweet to receive that. Thank you very much. We arrived 3 days before our team arrived of ladies. The main goal was to meet with ladies and some men of Muslim background in a part of Brooklyn that has a lot of Muslim people of Arab background, people who speak Arabic, people of descent from there. And so we arrived early and we stayed in Manhattan, and there are just a lot of people in New York. And we stayed, by I think God's providence, at an international youth hostel, and they had some shared spaces, and we had opportunities to just chat with a few different people. And I think this was a Shabbat that we celebrated with a Jewish man named David, and just felt providential. I'll quickly share this story. We wanted to go and explore the city and do a bunch of fun stuff, and we just couldn't wake up. We just woke up super late, felt like our day was starting super late, and it was the major jet lag, the 1 hour jet lag. And so our day just kind of took a different direction, and we didn't leave the hostel until maybe 3 p.m. because we encountered David. We had breakfast with him, and when we met him, he came outside to this patio space that was this beautiful garden, and he was praying quietly. And at first, I couldn't tell if he was of Arabic descent, and then I saw the Hebrew, and I saw that he was Jewish. And we had a great conversation with him, and I got to share. He was so open to talking to us, so friendly, wanted to hear what we were saying. And I got the opportunity just to share with him that I thought Jesus was the one who was prophesied, and just shared a couple of reasons that stirred my heart, and some that he hadn't heard before. He wasn't familiar with the story of the Israelites and the snakes in the desert, and that really prominent image of the bronze serpent being held up by Moses, and those who looked at it were being healed of their diseases. And I told him that's an image that Jesus, used to refer to himself. In the same way that rod was lifted up, that cursed snake on the stick, he's like, I will be lifted up. And just got to explain, hey, Jesus is the one who absorbed the curse of everybody for us. And that's just a powerful image for me personally. And because he had a prayer book, he had the Psalms in there. And so we just got to share with him we didn't have our Bibles, but we said, well, we know Psalm 51, we know these Psalms, Psalm 23, and just got to read Scripture with him, some that had been written on our hearts. And hopefully that made a bridge, a connection, knowing like, hey, we know your text, like that's our text, and we believe it points to the hope of Jesus. So for me, that was just a heart of mine. We went there ultimately to meet with people of Muslim background, but the Lord's heart is for everybody. And so my heart too is for these Jewish people who who don't know of the one who came for them. So it was a fantastic time, and a profound thing that he said. He said sometimes he'd been on a big spiritual journey and had chosen Judaism at the end of this, not the end of his spiritual journey, but he had chosen Judaism. And he said, sometimes I wonder if I should pray to Jesus. And I've never heard a Jew say that, somebody of a Jewish background. There's such a hesitancy with Jesus, he's like, no, that is a cult person. That is somebody who is, that's not him. That's not the Messiah. That's not the promised one. But he had this sweet spot for Jesus. And he was going to read one of his prayers, and for some reason he was like, he's like, I can't find the prayer I was going to read. He's like, well, we could pray to Jesus. And we were like, okay, let's do it. And so we prayed in a blessing over him, and we prayed in Jesus' name. And what just a providential conversation. Thank you for praying for that. That was amazing. And that was day 2. Let's see. Yes, so we met this couple from the Netherlands. They had literally just moved to New York. And 2 days before we arrived. And we were at a restaurant, and we had some drinks, and they mixed up our orders. And so that provided this random connection for us. Just so strange, the most tightly packed spot you could imagine. It's New York. We wanted to listen to some jazz music, and you couldn't hear anybody. It was so loud. And they mixed up our drinks, and so we were able to talk with them, and we spent 5 hours with them. Just a strange connection,
Try Mexican food, and we're like, let's go to a Mexican restaurant. You can try tacos. So we kept hopping around to different restaurants, trying different food, because they were new to New York and we weren't from there. So we were like, let's go explore. And so we ended up getting to share with them just about how, just in a very organic way, just they're like, so how did you guys meet? And we're like sharing about that. And then they were like, well, how did you guys, Andrea, they were asking me where I was from. And I was like, I'm from Mexico. And why did you come here? And so I was like, well, I'll tell you how I got here. So I got to just share about just the hardship. Y'all know part of my story. And so I got to share about that and how the Lord had just softened my heart to forgive my father from all the hurt that had happened in my childhood. And then how that even led me to receive my forgiveness and healing from the Lord, to also forgive my father. And then how that was even sweet for me to walk into a relationship that was with a male, and that was like, hey, I could have brought in all these hurts, but the Lord was already healing in me, and it just made, and then sharing about our story and things like that, and they were just like, wow, okay, and so just really small ways, but just bringing in the Lord into our story and how that came to be. And we talked about, they were like, well, what do you guys think about family? And what do you guys think about, having friends around? Do you guys value family? And just different things like that. And so just talking in general just about life and values. And, so it was just really sweet. And they have our number, and we kept telling them how cheap Arkansas was and how full of nature it was. And they're like, wow, we should come to Arkansas. We're like, yeah, you should. You should come meet our friends. So they might actually come. So if they do, you guys be ready. So we're excited about that.
Swerve. Yeah. Okay, there are people who have committed their lives to Jesus, and they're in New York. So there are some people who are planting churches, and they're in New York, that have transplanted to New York. But there are also people who were just born and raised there, who are just organic. And so we met with Pastor Danny Torres of Swerve Church, and he's just ministering to what the neighborhood he grew up in. And they are, they meet the needs of the community. They hand out food, popcorn, hot dogs. They do coat drives, food banks, just anything to just have an impact, to share the love of Jesus. And so we got to attend a Sunday morning with them, and they're a small little church, and it was just smaller than us, and it was just really sweet, and just to kind of lift them up. I was really wanting to help with video, and so I'm working on a video to help share a little bit more about what they're doing to help encourage people in Arkansas churches, and then also just a video for him to continue connecting with churches in the future. So it's just like, yeah, Lord, thank you for letting me have that gifting. Oh, yeah. So a testament to the Lord working in New York. We met a man named Omar who I'm going to summarize his story. Amazing story. Was an atheist and he just hated things about God, was very engineer-brained, just couldn't. He was like, that just wouldn't happen. A man couldn't do that when talking about Jesus. But Pastor Danny is just so kind and just so sweetly persistent and is just available and just helped Omar and like walked him through just different things and shared the gospel, just shared his faith, his testimony. And Omar has given his life to Jesus in the past 3 years. And he works for the United Nations and is just in like such a specific role to help with relieving child trafficking. Just an amazing connection. And so I got to film his testimony and just him sharing, just like, man, Jesus has changed his life. So God's doing a work in these neighborhoods, which is really sweet. And
He introduced himself to us, and he was like, "Hi, my name is Omar." And we were like, "Hi, Omar. How did you get to this church?" And he was like, "Well, I hated Jesus." And we're like, "What?" And he was like, "But the Lord just lovingly pursued me and gave me family here, and Danny just loved me and walked me through a lot of questions, of really hard things that maybe other people might not be willing to. But he just loved me and would let me ask all kinds of crazy questions." And he said, "And I gave my life to the Lord at the age of 30. And we're like, "That's not late. That's great."
yeah, it was amazing. Okay, and then we met up with our team. Our team arrived safely. Thank you for praying for safety and travel. It was not ever complicated. And so these are the ladies that were specifically on our team. And there's a bigger group that was from Russellville, another 10 or 12 ladies. And so we've got, different ages and different parts of Arkansas represented. But it was just really sweet, and you can speak more to this, just the unity of mission and purpose and clarity of focus was just sweet. We knew what we were there to do.
So as you can tell, there's a lot of different age groups. We have a sweet girl that was 14 years old. We have there was a single gal, a couple married ones, some moms of teenagers, and then we have our group leader, Miss Debbie. She's really sweet. She was a worker overseas in 3 different countries and for many years. So now she's wanting to help people here be stirred up for that kind of a work here and also to the nation. So she's really awesome. And okay, so what was really sweet was, we were all from different churches from Arkansas, and we even got to, as Alex said, we got to partner with a team from Russellville, from a church there, and just getting to connect and work together, it just felt like we were quickly like, we're brothers and sisters, and we just like started working together and doing things together. And we even got to share our stories with each other, and that was like so encouraging and uplifting. I think we sometimes forget the power of our testimony and how sweet and encouraging that is. And even if we say hello to each other here, like it's really good to just share our stories with other people who don't know it. It unifies us in a really sweet way. We got to teach English lessons. There's so basically partnered with different people that are already in New York loving their neighbors. And so one of them is this organization, these believers who have started these English courses at this friendship center. And so they have 2 classes in the mornings, and then 2 classes in the morning, a beginner, intermediate, and then an intermediate and advanced in the evening. And so some of them are just for women because some of their husbands don't let them be with other men, and then others are mixed. So it was really sweet. We got to have really good connections and just share about the Lord. And we didn't get to like outwardly always pray with them, but it was just the small interactions, the encouragement, the telling. One of our girls from our crew was a florist. So she does flowers for weddings, and she ended up going to the markets nearby making flowers. And we got to tell them, hey, they were like, these flowers are beautiful. And they're like, hey, but God made you, and he thinks you are more beautiful. And so just even small ways of sharing was really sweet. But these people that have been there have been over like 15 years just pouring into the community and loving them and teaching them English. And it's been really sweet. So a couple of them have come to the Lord, right, from what we've heard. So that's really sweet. Okay, then.
Yeah, we got to meet up with some people who are living in Queens, and they chose Queens because it is, if not the most, it's one of the most diverse parts of the world. Over 140 different nations are represented, and so this couple here we got to meet with, and they've been there for a year, but have just carried this passion for Jesus, this passion for different nationalities. And so they're in New York specifically trying to just bridge the gap with people from a Muslim faith background. And so they're making connections, establishing friendships, just meeting needs, emotional needs, tangible physical needs. And it was just encouraging to visit with them, and they explained to us some different challenges about being in the city, especially in their neighborhood. They have noticed that the climate is spiritually hostile. There are people from different backgrounds that are actually offering up sacrifices to various idols intentionally, and so their children have had troubles with nightmares, and which they don't have in Arkansas. And there are just different things that they've been experiencing that were just difficult. But we had a really good time visiting with them, and yep. So yeah.
All right, we don't want to take too much time. So we got to also serve within the neighborhood that we were staying. It was our neighborhood for the week, and there was a church that was meeting in the hotel we were staying at. They met downstairs, and they do this thing where they get together and they go around their community and they just pick up trash. And they're just like, we're going to be loving, and we're going to love our neighbors, and we're going to love our community. And so sometimes that would involve connections where people are like, why are y'all doing this? Not y'all, why are you guys doing this? Why are you guys doing this? And where are you from? And, thank you so much. And we got to have conversations with people because they were like, this is my business. Thank you so much for picking up trash that people leave here. And they were just so grateful, and it was really sweet. So sometimes it leads to connection. Sometimes it just leaves them wondering, like, why are these people from this church, doing this and loving our community? So it was really sweet. More than just the pictures, there was a really sweet connection. One of my favorites that we got to have was with this family that Debbie, the lady we were telling y'all, that has been going. She's been leading trips to New York to these different areas for like over 12 years, and so she's built friendships with these people. And this particular family we got to have dinner with, they just welcomed all of the team and made us dinner, and we got to sit with them, and we got to share our stories with them. And they've said that in the past this family's been really closed, and they've just been really prideful, like not wanting to let their walls down. But this time they were really attentive as we were sharing our stories of like how Jesus has just done things in our lives, and it was just so powerful. And so anyways, it was really sweet. One of our friends also got to have coffee with a girl that she'd met 2 years ago. A year ago on this trip, and she was able to share her story with her, and she said, that is my story. That is the same as my story. I also have a hard life with my family, and I don't think I could change my religion. And she's from the U.S., and her whole family doesn't know the Lord, and she chose the Lord at a young age, even though her family it was a really hard family, and a friend of ours from our trip. And so she was telling her, like, my family didn't want to believe in Jesus, but I wanted to believe in Jesus. And it was not helpful. Like, my family was mad at me for choosing Jesus, for choosing to live differently. And this Muslim girl was looking at her like, that's me. Like, I also want peace. I also want love. That could also be me. And she was like, yes, it could also be you. And so we're just praying, if you guys could pray for just those seeds that were planted. And just even the story with David, we got to hang out with the girl, his name is Hava, which means Eve in Turkish or Arab. And so she's from Turkey, and we were able to share our story with her as well. And she just was listening and was like, wow, I really like how you guys talk about God and how he relates to you. So anyways, just a lot of seeds planted, but we were just really grateful for our time there, and just love you guys, and feel really stirred and encouraged by how we can walk also in our neighborhood and pick up trash. How we also can, well, we feel stirred, like we can also walk in our neighborhood and pick up trash. We can also walk around our neighborhood and pray, and we can also go to coffee shops and restaurants and be intentional about the people that are there and see who's willing to chat with us. You know, like those are things that we could also do here. And so, anyways.
Yeah. So a lot of the things we did were so simple. So many little connections. There was a grumpy lady who came into a coffee shop, and I just felt led to clean off the table because she was complaining. And then she was just like, why did you clean my table? What in the world? Where are you from? And she was just locked in for the next hour, like, so what are you guys? Where are y'all? And so she just like was locked on by, I was like, I just picked up a plate and took it to a bin and then swept off some crumbs, and she was just blown away. Anyway, so the simple things, I felt like that was what the Lord was affirming. Just like even sharing a smile with somebody, and they just felt like, wow, you seem peaceful, and like maybe I'm not used to that, and it just led to conversations. And anyway, when we got back, I felt led to pick up trash yesterday morning. Not for my pat on the back, but I was like, I just feel like I need to go do that. And then I met a neighbor yesterday, and it's just like, man, the Lord wants to do that all over, not just 1 week, for it to just be like a simple rhythm of our life. And yeah, it just opened up a door for a conversation with a neighbor that we haven't had a lot of conversations with our neighbors, but it was really sweet. So praise God, He wants to keep doing that, not just in New York, but throughout the earth. So we love you guys. Thank you so much.
Wow, so awesome. That is so cool. Well, like I was saying, for our morning, we're both hearing and celebrating what God did on this past trip, as well as getting ready to send and believe God to continue to do that as well. And so just a moment, we're going to pass off that to the Rogers. But first, I'm going to bring up Erica here. If you guys don't know Erica Walters here, her husband Jordan, they head up, they're what are called our missions directors here at Antioch, and they are really responsible for helping us live a culture of mission and also be able to send people well. So we're not like, okay, bye, Rogers, good luck. You know, it's like, how can we actually take an active role in sending and making sure they're cared for? So Erica has been the mastermind of figuring it all out for us. And so she's going to give a little bit of that process so we're all aware of that, and then she'll hand it over to the Rogers here. So.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, I just wanted to briefly give kind of a missions update in our church before I pass it off. I'm fired up from hearing about y'all's trip, and it's like, yes, we have such a friend in Jesus, and we can be a friend to others. And I would love to have more opportunities for us to be able to go together as a church on short-term trips as well. So just kind of an update on that. It's been a minute since we have had a church-wide trip. We're planning and believing for one probably in the summer of next year. So already, just while we're praying and discerning all of that, would have you pray and ask the Lord, would you have me go on a trip? Would you have me lead a trip? If you were to lead a trip and you've never done something like that before, we will support you a lot and help you, navigate that. Yeah, so be praying about that. I also wanted to share some of the options in terms of going overseas with Antioch. So there's short-term trips, which is something that our church would do together. Then there's also things called an ETN, which is a 12-week trip. There's something called a SERVE internship, which is basically a year of going overseas somewhere. And then there is long-term. And long-term starts usually with a 3-year commitment minimum. So those are kind of your options, lots of options. And those are just kind of traditional trips. We're not even getting into acts of mercy and medical relief, different avenues. So all that to say, if you are very intrigued by that, please reach out to me, talk to your life group leader, talk to Bobby. We would love to help you get connected to anything there. So I think I have a slide, Dakota. So in terms of long-term sending, this is the process that the Rogers have gone through, and I've kind of taken on some of the administrative side of helping them work their way through it. Yeah, it's gotten to be a really big process. So yeah, if you're curious and you think, well, maybe I would want to go overseas someday, or I'm curious what that's about, I'm just going to share briefly and also let you know where the Rogers are at in this process. So, first thing is you're just involved in life group. Maybe you're exploring God's heart. You're going on a short-term trip. You go to World Mandate. Woo, World Mandate. Or, you go on an ETN maybe with us, or you go anything like that. So you say, yes, basically, I'm ready to go overseas. I have a heart for this. So here's the steps that you would kind of go through. Because, when the Rogers came, I'm pretty sure they were like, we just do D-School and we go. And I was like, I'm so sorry. There's more to it than that. So there's ADS. That's the discipleship school. So that's kind of step one. Then you may or may not choose to do an internship. So that's SERVE. That's an optional step. Then there's CP training. So there's an intensive, which is a 9-day thing. And then there is a mentorship, which is kind of a 12-week course. Then you do MPD, which is our new way of saying support raising. And that's essentially where the Rogers are at. They have completed a good portion of their CP training. They've done half of it so far. So some of this can be done in tandem. And then once you've done all of those things, you launch. And you're not done yet. We don't just say, bye, good riddance, because then you get kind of tied into a cohort of people who are being sent. You have mentors that have been on the field for a really long time. So there's kind of a lot going on there. And just because you may not be one that's being sent, there are a lot of roles for us to play as a sending church in terms of pastoral oversight. We might take short-term trips to their location in the future, things like that. So I'm not going to ask if you have questions. If you have questions, you can come talk to me after service, because I want to give the Rogers plenty of time. But yeah, just go ahead and hand off. Okay, Rogers, you are up. Let's welcome them.
Well, I'm Cody. I think I know many of y'all, and then Maggie's over there, and our son Micah's downstairs, and we'll talk about that more. But first, kind of two things I want to do here. I'll just put this up there. But one, I wanted to pray, so I'm just going to do that here now. So, Lord, we come before you. We thank you for this day, this new day that you've given us. I pray that you would give me your words, and that they would be your words as they come out of my mouth, and that they'd have the impact that you want them to have, Lord. I ask for that. I just thank you for this church and the chance to talk and be here with everyone. So thank you, God. Amen. And then the second thing, sorry, I'm not good at keeping the mic at a consistent distance. So second thing, I think a phrase in D-School that I heard someone speaking or talking about Antioch generally was like a culture of honor. So I want to give honor, like a couple shout outs to people. Definitely to the Walters. I'm glad Erica came up here so you could see her. Yeah. Yeah, they have been extremely helpful through this whole process, like she mentioned, just detailing things and getting us the information we need and all that. So thank you guys for that. Also, Jordan and I knew each other from way before when this whole process was starting. So, I mean, Jordan's been a big part of my spiritual journey, so I'm thankful for that. The Bates also. I just see Laura. Yeah, so Laura and Stephen. I think we could all thank them for an innumerable number of things, but they have also just been really helpful, very mentoring, and yeah, so good for us this whole process too. And then my parents are actually here too, and we're going to talk about that some, but because of their faithfulness, I mean, like if I'm in any way following the Lord, they had a large portion to do with that. So I want to give that honor where that's due also. The sending of the Rogers. So this verse, I don't have my phone on me, but it's Isaiah 43:19. It's kind of where, God says, "Behold, I'm doing a new things. I'm making a way in the desert, like springs in the wasteland." And so I think, not that like, we're doing this super crazy thing, but we're not necessarily like going, planning, living in one place for forever. We're going to be doing a lot of trips and things that I think I didn't know mission work was going to look like when I was like wanting to do this earlier in my life. So it does feel like a new thing, and like springs in the wasteland, that's what God does, and so we want to be partnering with that too. So kind of this is coming from my background in academics, I guess, but objectives for this talk. So I want to talk about who we are, just to get to know us a little bit better, and how Maggie and I came to this decision to go overseas. Talk about missions a little bit and kind of the why behind that, looking at some verses. Talk about our specific mission and how that's fitting into capital M missions. Kind of invite you all into this partnership. We're going to do some prayer at the end. And just this was a reminder for myself. So we're going to a safe location, and God willing, we're going to be safe. But there are opportunities for us to go to other places that are less secure. So please don't post anything from here. If you have people that you want to like tell them about us more, please have them come to us. And I think we're streaming, but we're not going to post this link on the website. I say the people in the back that take care of all that are not going to do it. Also, and this is not related to security, but there are some handouts at the back. We have a little prayer card, and then just what we call a one-pager, which is more details. So as y'all leave, if you would like to, feel free to grab one or both of those. So this is kind of who we are. Obviously, Maggie and I, our son Micah, and we've got another little boy on the way named Ian. Still working on a middle name. Feel free to throw out suggestions. Kind of kidding, but we've, we'll just kind of keep going because I think that's so. Talking about me, kind of my I guess life journey. You can see some pictures up there, featuring my wonderful parents and some other members of our family. But my parents did mission work in Kenya. They were there for about 10 years. They were doing a lot of leadership training and church development there. So I was born there, and you can kind of see in the top right picture, I am a naked little boy in the diaper on the front who's white. So I don't know, I think growing up on the mission field definitely like set my paradigm of what the Christian life should look like. Like I just thought it was normal that everybody goes across cultures and does Christian life that way, as opposed to being in one church forever, which is not bad or wrong, but just like I kind of already had that paradigm starting up. When I was about 5, we moved to Central Arkansas. It says Little Rock, but it was really North Rock, Sherwood, but sometimes it bleeds together. Yeah, they're different. And then my family, that's a picture from, high school, I think, for me, all of us together there. And then I went to college at a Christian school up in Searcy, and then went to med school here in Little Rock, and then 2 years in Fayetteville. But here in Little Rock, I think, is where I met David Hudson, which was kind of like my entry into the Antioch world. And I know a lot of people here know David Hudson, and God willing, we're going to be joining him overseas. So that's just a fun trip. So I've kind of touched on it some briefly, but what I would describe as like my call to missions, because I don't know that there's one point where like, bam, God opened the heavens, like, Cody, you're going to go do XYZ for me for this period of time. And I think it was just kind of like I said, like my parents started out doing mission work. I had this paradigm of this is what Christian life looks like, and God just opened lots of doors kind of continuously. So when I was in college, I spent a summer in Greece, and that was like, I would say like my first foray into cross-cultural work, and I'm up there with a much larger beard than I have now, getting translated into a couple languages, just hearing a little address, something. But like that was one way that God like stirred my heart, and I got to do just like a little bit of medicine. I was in college, so I didn't know much, but just a little bit of like burn care. I was like, oh man, this really catches me. I would like to do this more. So then kind of before and during medical school, got to go again with David Hudson. We went to Lebanon. We worked with some refugee camps. The Walters were there, yeah. And that was also just like wow, yeah, how could I spend my life doing anything else but this? Like, that's kind of where those thoughts coalesced, I guess, into that. So I went to residency, and then after residency, I spent 5 months in Bangladesh, which is close to India, working in a missions hospital there, and just more cementing of like God laying out this track for my life and trying to go down it as he called me. So those are just kind of some pictures from that. So that's kind of like the journey up to our shared journey, and I'll talk more about that in just a second. But Maggie had a different life than I did. I think that's I just yeah, just like they're Christians in New York, yeah. And I just say that like God doesn't only start with certain people. Like, anybody can come from anywhere, answer God's call. Like, there's not some filter where he's like, oh, you didn't do this right. I'll see you later. It's like, so Maggie grew up. She lived in like 2 different houses up until she went to college, which is wild to me, not wild to everybody. But she's from Branson, and that's a picture of her dad, who's a physician there, and then she was one of 3 girls, so they were a big tennis family. So it was a cute little picture up there. But so she lived in Branson. She went to University of Missouri. She did pole vaulting there, and that's her jumping that pole. So impressive. But she, and that's kind of where she really, period of her life is where God started to capture her heart more, I think. And she's got a beautiful testimony. I think you should ask her about it. Maybe not today, right now, but at some point ask her about it. And then she went to med school in Grenada, which is a Caribbean school. And that also, like, God was using to call her to mission work. So like I said, so she grew up, and I realized, like, she meets Jesus in college, and I think that's true. But like, her family, her mom's very faithful, strong believer. But I feel like from knowing Maggie, she really did, like, she had a lot of big loss and disappointment in college, and then God used that, specifically people through Fellowship of Christian Athletes, like this sports organization, to bring her into his heart for her, and for her to know him in the right way. So I would say that's kind of where things started. She went to Vietnam actually as like part of a sports camp thing. It wasn't like a dedicated Christian mission, but that was cross-cultural work, and she loved it. She loved the kids loved her. And then, like I said, you went to med school in Grenada, which also is like, it's a different country. Like, it's got a different feel. And so her doing that too was a step of obedience. I think maybe she didn't have language for it at that time, but God was calling her to do that, I think, so that she could have practice living cross-culturally. So, and then she, in residency, she spent a month in Burundi, which is Central West Africa. Worked in a mission hospital there for a month. So again, just more, and that was, I think, for her, I don't say like a trial run for missions, but it was like, after that trip, she was like, all right, yeah, I'm down, let's do this kind of deal. So then, kind of backing up a little bit, we met in Springfield, Missouri during our medical training. So that's kind of where we intersected, was in residency there. So then, learning point for me and for anyone else is, I guess, looking at marriage. But like, I felt like I had this call. Maggie tells people that, maybe on our first date we was kind of like, well, I want to go. I want to go to Sudan. I want to go to the hardest places, and I want to go there forever. That's just what I want to do. So kind of like, come with me or don't. Which I think there was, maybe some pride in that, and some things that God needed to tailor down. And at the same time, God was like changing Maggie's trajectory too, of like, I'm gonna live in Missouri with my parents forever. No, you're gonna like serve me overseas. And so it's lots of prayer, lots of talks, went into kind of our decision to stay dating and to continue on that trajectory. And then we went on a survey trip for about 7 days to Dubai. We met some of the people there, just encountered the city, and really felt like a lot of peace about moving forward with that journey. So then we come back, lots of prayer and talks again, lots of decisions, and again, there wasn't a point where God was like, bright light shining on just the nation of Dubai, but it was just like, yeah, this makes sense. This makes sense. God's opening this door. We're kind of stepping through. Okay, He's opening this door, and just like continued lack of shut doors, I guess. So what are we doing? Like, we talk about missions a lot. I think probably a lot of people here know what that is. These are some things that people ask, like, are you doing this? Are you doing that? And we're not, I don't think, doing any of those things. But that middle bullet, living cross-culturally as we reflect Christ so that others will know. I think like that living cross-culturally, that's like, I don't know, maybe not the only thing, but that's, in my head, that's what missions is like you cross something. There's some barrier distinction that you are going over. For us, it's going to be, a big ocean. For other people, it might be like the inner city. But there is, we are wanting to move and live cross-culturally, and we want to continue honoring Christ in our lives and sharing the gospel and doing these things so that other people will come to know him. And then, so like I would say like that's missions, and then like this last bullet, using medicine as a vehicle for churches in other countries to spread the gospel is like how I think God's going to use us specifically, and we will talk more about that. But again, there's probably a little bit of preaching to the choir here, and not that I'm preaching, but why we are going, like our understanding, and these are just a couple scriptures. These are probably pretty well known. The top one is the Great Commission, and it's a little bit crunched on there, but go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations. And then, of course, more details on that. But I think with that, there's kind of an understanding of like, one, all nations, so not just America, not just Israel, not just Mexico, Canada, like all nations. And there's a lot of nations out there. And then this one, the second verse, Matthew 24:14, I think was one that I was like not as familiar with until I was in residency and with some other people that had this mindset. But this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. And so that whole all nations doesn't necessarily mean this country and this country, but I think the Greek, which I'm not a Greek scholar, but like ta ethne, it's like all ethnic groups, all languages. And so if you look at this map here, these dots represent different ethnic groups. And so and then the color of them indicates how quote unquote rich they are, i.e. how much gospel influence they are under. So green, darker green is more gospel influence, more evangelical Christians. The red are like the unreached. And so you can see there's a big mass of red dots in India, North Africa, kind of Southeast Asia. And so that's the 1040 window, and that's kind of what we want to focus on. And it's the lines of latitude 10 and 40. That's kind of how it gets that moniker. But we want to be a part of God reaching all nations, of all nations knowing, all ethnic groups, all people going. These are a couple more verses, again, reflecting God's heart for that purpose. The Psalms 2:8, which is actually the second one, ask me and I will make the nations your inheritance, the ends of the earth your possession. Self-explanatory. This top one, you read through the Bible and then things stick out different times as you read again. So this top one really hit me more recently, I think even after D school. But rise up, O God, and judge the earth, for all the nations are your inheritance. So it's not Canada, it's not the U.S., it's not this specific, it's all nations. All nations are your inheritance, and we want to be a part of God getting his inheritance. Like our goal is to help further believers in these different places to get to all ethnic groups. So we want to do that. This bottom one we'll kind of refer back to, I think, later, but again, probably a pretty well-known one, Romans 10:13-15. Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. How can they call on the one they haven't believed in? How can they believe if they haven't heard? How can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can someone preach them unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. So obviously, like our family, God willing, we're going to go. And so that's where we feel we fit into that passage. But obviously there's scriptural authority saying it's not just the people going, it's the people that send them. And so that's what we're inviting y'all into with us specifically. And I think looking at that too, I don't know, missionaries do get kind of oh wow, you're a missionary, it's so cool. And it is cool, but it's not it's just one part of God's plan for reaching everybody. You guys are just as cool in that vein of sending people. And so that's, again, the language may be not the best, but but God is so pleased with you sending someone and so pleased with the people that go. And so we're all part of the kind of the same mission. So it's just, again, a little bit, a couple verses on that. Drilling down to us more specifically, we do plan to live in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, and focused on that kind of that 1040 window where most of the unreached people in the world are today. Talking a little bit, and that let's say that was a picture from our survey trip there. when we went and visited Dubai. So why, you might say, like, why Dubai? It's kind of feels random. So in a word, it's strategic, and there's a map coming up here, but it's like right in the middle of the 1040 window. So the majority of those nations can be reached in a much shorter flight. When we went to Dubai, it was like drove like an hour to Dallas, 14 hours to Dubai, and then if we wanted to go anywhere else in that part of the world, then it's like 4 to 6 hours from there. So if we just live in Dubai, then that cuts out on a big portion of that travel time. Dubai itself is very diverse. It is a Muslim nation, and so there's opportunities for reaching people and living cross-culturally in Dubai and the city we're planted in. I think it's like 87% of people in Dubai are from a different place. It's like they're from Pakistan, the Philippines, North Africa. So just lots of opportunities at that time in that city. Short plane ride, I've talked about that. English is a common language, and so again, with what we want to do specifically, it will be kind of short-term trips going to different places. And so if we learned a language, it'd be hard to choose one specifically because we plan on going to different places and partnering with the local church. So the fact that we can just go to Dubai and like function there was a big help too. Last point, built-in community. There we are hoping to reach kind of 1040 window nations. There's a team from Antioch that's in Dubai that's focused on Dubai itself as a city. So we get the benefit of joining them kind of locally there. So we get like they have a healthy church, house church network there. That they're doing outreach. They're involved in prayer. So we get to kind of again step in, not have to learn language, and we don't have to like build up our own community. Like we're already getting put in with the team that's there. So that those are a lot of the reasons of like why Dubai. Those things answer that question. This is, again, that same picture as earlier, same 1040 window, and that star is hovering over Dubai. So you can kind of just see it really is just like right in the middle. So it works out well. It's a great hub to get places. So then I kind of mentioned it a little bit, but what we're actually going to be doing, we'll live in Dubai, and our plan is to take medical relief and crisis response trips from there, kind of as the need arises, kind of as we get invites from the local church. So this little Venn diagram trifecta here. So we already talked about like the last unreached people groups. Those are the people that we want to focus on reaching. We want to do that by partnering with local believers. So that's that bottom left, church planning. Like what we envision is that there's a local church there that says, hey, if this team from Dubai comes and does XYZ related to missions or related to medicine, so either sets up a clinic, provides some actual medical help, does some teaching, that will help us break into this unreached people group. And then if we do that, we're there, we provide an inroad, and then we leave, but those relationships are set up so that local church can then kind of take ownership. They would have had ownership the whole time, but they can continue to make inroads, continue to share the gospel. And then it's up to them. And it's going to be easier for them because they're going to be same culture, near culture, so just a lot of benefits to that setup. And then the crisis response, again, that's here. So why crisis response, or like why medical relief? It is something that God uses, and this slide is just kind of, whenever something happens, earthquake, flood, loss of life, loss of home, military attack, there's a shaking up of what people believe. Like it really challenges your worldview to have something big happen to you and undergo a lot of loss, have to move countries, etc. So what God uses in that time is that he uses that to make people open to hearing about like other ideas, other explanations for the world that they live in. And so I don't know, sometimes it feels almost like capitalizing or taking advantage of a situation. And I wouldn't say it necessarily is, because you're not taking advantage of them. You're coming in when they need it and giving them potentially access to the only thing that they're ever going to need, and that's Jesus. So we want to utilize, the dark and hardness of this world to bring the gospel light in. This is just a couple pictures. We're not in here, but this is not a sample deployment, but a couple people from Dubai went to Uganda, and this is kind of what we'd envision this looking like. But a couple people went, they partnered with a local pastor, a couple local physicians and nurses. They just set up a clinic for like 5 days and ministered to refugees from Sudan, from the Congo. So ministered to refugees in Uganda, and I guess it cuts it off a little bit. But yeah, so 5 days of kind of medical work, and then our team leaves. But what that allowed, again, those relationships stayed, and even now, this was in March, and now, 6 months later, that pastor is still meeting with people. There's like 6 or 7 Bible studies going on. There's discipleship happening. In the past month, that pastor was able to get donations and take food into that same refugee camp. So this is exactly what we want to do. I think this is just a great example of using medicine to partner with the local church so that those ongoing relationships can continue. So that's kind of us, what we want to do, how we feel like God's calling us. So this, maybe a little bit corny, but how can you help with this? I guess it's a little hard to see, but you guys already are. As Erica mentioned, you guys are ascending church. You guys are have been our community here for a year, and you're going to help support us as we go. And there's a lot of ways to support. So when I kind of the three big needs that we have, obviously, like Erica said, we're in MDP mode, or support raising mode, ministry partner development. So there is a financial need that obviously is there. It takes money to do things. We have a great need for prayer. I think that's probably the most important, not just prayer for us, but prayer that the work would continue and go well, and that God would be opening hearts and building his kingdom. And then connections, and we'll talk a little bit more. Connections is just we want to know other people that are interested in this. Maybe people here want to join us, really short term or long term. We can kind of talk about that more. So that was just kind of a listing. So again, talking about fundraising, we do have a need for money to go. We're not going to work a job there. It would be possible, but working a job there would be more time intensive than working a job here. So it just wouldn't make sense to move and then just do nothing but work. So we are going to be living off support. So we're kind of in that raising. That there's a little box up there that was supposed to be larger to kind of talk about the different ins and outs, but that's fine. But yeah, so expenses, rent, groceries, etc. Again, this was maybe going to be more helpful, but also these trips that we're wanting to go on, we're thinking none of this is ironed out in stone, but we are thinking once every couple months for a couple weeks. But again, that also is going to be costly because there's plane rides, there's getting medicine brought in if other things are needed to bring in. So we're raising our budget for our family, but then also a little bit more to make these trips possible. Specific prayer needs. These are some of them. Obviously, our family, for unity, for Maggie and I in marriage, for us to know how to raise our kids, which are things we'd need there or here. So feel free to start praying for us for that now. The work itself, obviously, the work that we want to do with bringing medicine in, helping the unreached become reached. You guys know how to pray. I don't know. I need to go into that. But specific in general, I think it helps to have God protect the Rogers, but then also God please show Cody how to have grace towards Micah and how to lead his family well. I think there's specific in general. And so we're going to be sending out newsletters. We've sent out some. If you want to be on that list, please let us know. We'll definitely add you. But they'll have some prayer lists, and then we'll probably have some sort of more bulleted, more specific prayer requests being sent out. Again, connections. Yeah. This is not, Erica said, it's not good riddance. Roger, see you guys later. But, we'd love people came and joined us. Short term, long term, came and visited, just said hi. It's going to be a long flight, but it'll hopefully be worth it. So, and then, we are in a circle with y'all, but y'all are in lots of other circles too. So if there's other people that are hey, I think this person would be really stirred by what the Rogers are planning on doing, we'd love to meet them. We'd love to connect with them too. So that's kind of the end there. Next steps, I would say for y'all as a church, number one, pray for us in this time as we're trying to raise support and be sent well. Pray for the work as we enter into it. Again, that's our email. So to get on our supporters list, if you want to, or the email newsletter list, that's my number, Maggie's number if you don't want to talk to me, and then we have a shared email up there. So it says questions at the bottom. If you guys have questions, please do. We would love to talk to you more about whatever your questions would be. So I can just leave that up there, I guess. But I think now we'll kind of transition into some prayer time, for which I will hand over to Pastor Valerie.
Wow. So exciting. So loved hearing. Yeah, you can stay up here. Come on. Maggie, you want to come too? You can. Anybody else? No, just kidding. Yeah, man, I think it's so exciting just to hear them at this stage. And again, just tribute to these guys. They've done a lot even over the last year to prepare themselves, but also just go through the process to be ready to be sent. And if you know Cody, Maggie, you know just the heart level. They're just locked in with Jesus. They're locked in with what he's doing in the nations. And so it becomes a difficult privilege because we love them so much, but a privilege nonetheless to be able to get ready to send them. And so I just encourage us as a people to find every way to get behind them. That's financially, that's prayer, that's reaching out to them. And then the connections piece really is huge. You know, some of us have our host church back home who are passionate about sending people. You know, getting them connected where they can do the same thing with them would be absolutely huge. Michael, you can go and come up here. What we're going to do is we're going to take these last couple minutes here to pray basically over everything that Cody was giving us here. And what we're going to do is pray into 3 specific areas. We're going to kind of put them all together just for our time's sake. But we're going to pray, obviously, for Cody, Maggie, Micah, and Ian, specifically as they get ready to be sent. We're going to pray for them. We're going to pray for what they're going to step into. Everything they gave us of the download of God's heart for the nations, we're going to just pray agreement with that. And then we're also going to pray, God, let this kind of stir something in our church as well. We just really firmly believe Cody and Maggie are the first of many that we're going to send to the nations. That's why we're so diligent with this process, that we just want to have an on-ramp where many can follow their lead in that. And so we're going to say, God, continue to stir up and send from our church here. And actually our city. Our city has a call to send people to nations. So we're going to pray for our church and our city as well. So just to get us moving, I know we've been sending for a while. I want everybody to go and stand up here. And what I want you to do is I want you to find 2 other people, and then each of you pick one, where you're praying for the Rogers, you're praying for the mission, or you're praying for our church and city to be sending as well. So find 2 other people that look like they're hungry to pray, and find them. Why don't you start praying? Michael will kind of get us a song going here, and then once we're ready to close out, we'll sing one last thing before the Lord, and we'll close out by praying for them here as well. So let's pray together.
King Jesus, we thank you. We thank you again for this day. We thank you for the call that you placed on our lives to love you and to live that out. I just pray that you would bless us in that. Father, pray that you would be with Antioch Little Rock, that you would be with Little Rock as a city, God, that we would be stirred, that we would stir others, that we would encourage each other up to love and good works, Father, but that you would be glorified in that. Pray that you show us what we need to do, Lord, for that to manifest. We pray that you would give us wisdom and insight about the decisions up ahead. But, Lord, that we would look to you always and that you would lead us with your Spirit, God. We love you. We love you and we want to live for you, God. And we pray this all in the holy and wonderful name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Well, let's just take this last minute or two. We're going to just sing to Jesus, just close out by just even agreements with everything Cody was giving us here. He's the king whose inheritance is the nations, and we're going to just come and declare that back to him. We're going to agree with that reality. So let's close out and sing that. If you're still praying, you stay in there. But the rest of us, we're going to worship, sing together.
You are worthy. You're worthy of it all. Of every tribe and tongue, every beating heart, you are worthy. You're worthy of it all, Lord. So I'll go where you go. I'll surrender all. You are worthy. You're worthy of it all. Of every tribe and tongue, every beating heart, you are worthy, Lord. You're worthy of it all. So I'll go where you go. I'll surrender